All right, everyone. Welcome back to week 7 of the GLCC recaps. That is the Gym Leader Challenge Circuit, a monotype draft league hosted by myself and my good friend Central. Please check out his channel in the description. He posts a lot of good content. Posts his games every week and a bunch of other stuff. So make sure to check him out. Also in the description, the Discord link for our server is in there. So if you're interested in getting involved or playing next season, make sure you check that out. And watch until the end for the announcement. There's a bit of an announcement at the end, so make sure to stay tuned for that. But yeah, otherwise, I think we're good to get started with this week's recaps. So this is the final week of the regular season, meaning that at the end here, we're going to take a look at the playoff bracket and the final standings. So a lot of these games are super, super important for determining who is able to make it into the playoffs. The top 4 teams have already clinched, but the last 4 spots are up for contention between 5 different teams. So with that being said, let's get into the first match. So we have Lost Lotto with Mono Psychic versus Central, who is using Mono Dragon. And looking at the teams, we don't have pace because this is a potential rematch in the playoffs, depending on the outcome of this game and some of the others. So for that reason, no pace so that they can save sets for the potential rematch in the playoffs. But just looking generally, obviously Roaring Moon looks really good. Archaludon is nice as a resist to a lot of things. And yeah, it's interesting to see the Dragalge here. Considering a Dragalge into Mono Psychic, but it is Terra Steel, so it can Terrasilize out of its poison typing, which could be really nice. And Flygon looks really, really good here as well, to really hit the Delphox and the Glowking really hard, since there's a lot of special attackers on this team that Central is bringing, and Glowking kind of walls all of them. But on Lost Lotto side, I mean, Iron Boulder obviously looks really scary. It outspeeds everything on the team. And has super effective coverage for almost everything. I think it's just Flygon. Yeah, just Flygon, because Earthquake hits these 3, and then Close Combat will hit these 2. So Central is really going to have to play cautiously with that Flygon to make sure that Iron Boulder doesn't go crazy here. Latias is also very, very good because it can tank a lot of hits. It's likely probably like some kind of Dragon Resist berry if I had to guess, just so it can take 1 hit and then dish back like a huge Draco. Glowking looks really good, walling a lot of special attackers. We have Indeedee for the Psychic Surge, which allows it to prevent Thunderclap from the Raging Bolt, so really good bring on Lost Lotto's part. Cyclosar with knockoff is going to be pretty scary, so having Delphox to Terra out of it, potentially Terra Fairy if I had to guess, could be really good. And yeah, Terra Fairy Dazzling Gleam looks really, really good into this team. And then finally, Necrozma is always good, just very versatile, so it'll be interesting to see what set Lost Lotto brings this week. But with that, we can get started. So we see a Necrozma lead into a Cyclozar. We see an immediate U-turn, which makes sense. Potentially the Necrozma might be setting up here. We just see a raw Dragon Pulse into the Raging Bolt. Does a solid amount of damage. We see leftovers on both of them. It is a Calm Mind Necrozma. Volt Switch does pretty significant damage, honestly, at +1. But yeah, Roaring Moon just comes out to revenge it, knock off Okos, and Delphox comes out now. So probably the Terra. Yep, Terra Fairy, Dazzling Gleam comes out. Dragalge eats that. I'm assuming the Terra is going to come out here and probably flip turn. Honestly, I think at that point, yeah, I think at that point it might have been better just to flip turn. I don't know if the set carries flip turn, but if it does have flip turn, I think it probably is a good idea to flip turn out at that point, because the Glowking Switch is fairly obvious. And even if the Delphox does elect to stay in, the Dazzling Gleam is going to do like another 20% to you. And you're going to be able to get into Archaludon and threaten it out, and then get a strong like Flash Cannon off on something, which will be really nice, especially because afterwards you can go into Flygon, potentially if he goes into the Slowking like he did here. And getting in Flygon right now would be a really good position because, I mean, you can kind of click Earthquake for free, and you kind of force in the Latias. Uh, yeah, I think at that point it might have been better just to flip turn out at that point because if it does have flip turn, I think it probably is a good idea to flip turn out at that point. So, uh, Yeah, and then I think also just getting the Terra off here, Terra stealing was probably also pretty decent, just so that you can have a good switch into um, the psychic type attacks. But I understand also saving the Terra just because if it is your main Delphox answer, Terra stealing into Delphox is kind of a bit unfortunate. But overall, the flip turn does come out here. Okay. And Flygon comes out. Oh, but now, yeah, Flygon takes an Ice Beam to the face and just drops. So that's really unfortunate because now this Cloaking probably doesn't get broken. It's going to really depend on Roaring Moon to try to OHKO this Slowking. But if I had to guess, I would assume it would be Colbur because the Roaring Moon is fairly obvious into this team. At which point, I don't think Roaring Moon can really do too much damage to the Slowking once it burns the Colbur. So yeah, losing Flygon is really, really unfortunate there. But we see the knockoff and the Colbur. Yep. We see another Ice Beam come out, does a bunch of damage to the Cyclozar. Cyclozar pivots out into Dragalge on the Chilly Reception. Boulder comes in for free here. Now an Earthquake is probably coming out. Yeah, Earthquake comes out. Dragalge just drops. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think you just sack the Cyclozar just because it's almost dead. It's not really going to do too much here. I understand wanting to save knockoff, but at this point, it gets outsped by Boulder. Slowking is not taking any reasonable damage from a knockoff. Latios outspeeds, or it doesn't outspeed you, but Latios is not going to stay in on you anyways. And then Delphox is Terra Fairy, so doesn't really do too much to it. So I think at that point, probably just sacking Cyclozar so you can get in, I guess, Raging Bolt maybe at this point to try to Thunderclap chip into Roaring Moon to knock off. I think potentially could have been the play because Dragalge is still really useful for the Delphox because otherwise Delphox kind of goes crazy here. But we see Archaludon come out now. See a Thunder Wave come out. Okay, on the Slowking. Slowking is going to probably Ice Beam or Chilly. We see a Flamethrower come out. Interesting. I think just going for the Ice Beam is just safe because Flamethrower is still neutral. So Ice Beam hits everything else while Flamethrower is resisted by everything else. So I think at that point just going raw Ice Beam is just better in this position. But I mean, it's just a small optimization. It doesn't really matter all that much, to be honest. So Chilly should come out here from Slowking. Yeah, Chilly does come out into the Roaring Moon. So Delphox can come out here. I wonder if the Roaring Moon is Ironhead. I mean, it probably doesn't OHKO Delphox from full. But if this is like a banded Roaring Moon set, Ironhead could potentially have taken out the Delphox. But it's also hard to say whether or not this Delphox is Scarf. It's entirely possible. The item hasn't been revealed yet. So, but yeah, unfortunately now, Delphox does get a kill. Raging Bolt just drops to it. We see Cyclozar come out. I wonder what the Cyclozar is going to knock off. Knockoff is a crazy play into the Terra Fairy Delphox. But we see what got knocked off? Psychic Surge comes up. We see a Citrus Berry getting knocked off. Okay. Cyclozar Shift Gears up. Reflect comes up. So it is a Screens in DD. I mean, at +2, the Cyclozar does look decently tanky. It's decently threatening. But yeah. Okay, it was a Choice Band Boulder. That's really cool. Well, yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if the Dragalge would have been OHKO'd if it wasn't Choice Banded. Because Boulder is honestly a little bit weak, especially since you're forced to go Jolly here because of the Cyclozar. I wonder if it was known that the Boulder is banded. Maybe not, but also Dragalge is like fairly physically defensive as well. Like it is fairly physically tanky, so definitely interesting. But the Cyclozar set was really cool. I can see now why Central wanted to save it for a little bit later, because that set definitely could have put in some serious work here, depending on if he was able to get more set up, and if the NDD wasn't screens. But we see a crazy double into the Roaring Moon. Yeah, I'm not sure why. Yeah, I don't think there was any reason for Lost Auto to try to save this Mon. Because the calc probably says that he just does a lot of damage to the Archaludon. And honestly, at this point, right? Especially if this is like Scarf Delphox. He can just get as much damage as possible with CC. Probably does like 70, 80%. And then at that point, Scarf Delphox can just clean up with Dazzling Gleam. So I'm assuming that was the win condition that Lost Auto was going for. So I think at this point, just like staying in. I guess. Yeah, I guess it doesn't really give you an out though. If you stay in and you take it out, Delphox just comes in. Yeah, you're kind of banking on Delphox not being... Well, also you don't Oko Delphox from full. Yeah, I mean, honestly, at this point, I think Central just doesn't have enough pieces to win. So I think this play is like just like going for broke, like playing off a choke basically. Because I don't think that there's really a win condition from here. As long as Lost Auto just stays in and keeps spamming close combats, but Archaludon eats. Well, actually, considering the Archaludon is Chople, did 26%. In that case, I think actually switching out was probably not a good idea. If your Archaludon is Chople and it's gonna take this hit, it took it really, really well. I mean, 76% is more than enough HP to still threaten the Delphox. So then at that point, I think Lost Auto was probably forced into the Slowking. And yeah, it just depends on the Archaludon set. Maybe bringing Earthquake on Archaludon could be good to beat the Slowking. Because if the Archaludon has Earthquake and it can chip down the Slowking into range where the knockoff from Roaring Moon can take it out, Roaring Moon definitely lives in Ice Beam. Can get off a DD. And after, at +1, I'm assuming it does kill Delphox with Iron Head if it has it. And then knockoff should take care of everything else, unless it's like a very physically defensive Lottie. So I think that was probably the win con here for Central. But we do see close combat come out. Archaludon takes it, takes the second one, goes for the Flashkin, Thunder Wave. Okay. Okay, goes for the Foul Play. Takes out the Iron Boulder. Delphox comes out here, and now Scorching Sands comes out from the Delphox. And then, yeah, the Roaring Moon's almost dead. Earthquake doesn't do enough. And then Dazzling Gleam comes out to finish off the Roaring Moon. And with that, Lost Auto gets a nice 4-0 victory. And I'm pretty sure, I mean, Lost Auto is already clinched for playoffs. I think Central is also clinched for playoffs, unless there's a very, very, very like specific scenario that happens. So this game didn't matter too much for playoff contention, but more so it mattered for playoff position, and whether or not they were going to have to rematch in the playoffs. And I believe, I think some other games had to be played out in order for that to be decided. But we'll get into that at the end. So very good games, both of them. Very cool sets. It'll be exciting to see the rematch next week in the playoffs. If that happens, or potentially later down the line. But with that, we're going to move on to game 2. And this is going to be my game versus Mountain Man. And I just really quickly going over my sets. I have a let me think, Calm Mind Articuno, I believe. Yeah, Calm Mind Articuno, double Psychic move. We have a just regular Sheer Force Life Orb Lando, a bulky Corviknight Fizdef for the Sneasler. I believe it's just a Dragon Dance Dragonite. I don't remember exactly what the item is. I have a Charty Berry Moltres, primarily for the, what's it called, Grafia, to prevent Prankster. And then we have a Drifblim that's also Fizdef, just for general physical threats and things like that. But yeah, that's the team I'm bringing. Let me see if I have Mountains Paste. Okay, I don't think I do. Potentially because this could be a rematch in the playoffs. So both of us are already clinched. So this match determines the seeding for both of us on who ends up at 2nd seed and who ends up like 3rd or 4th seed, depending on the win, which can change like the playoff matchups essentially. But yeah, with that, we can get into it. So we see a Sneasler lead into my Articuno, and my thoughts here, I have Terra Steel on the Articuno, so I didn't want to Terra because obviously CC would have taken me out. But I also didn't want to stay in and get Dire Claw parried or something because then I would lose one of my main win conditions. And my thought process was that I always have this Corviknight, which is like a very good check to the Sneasler. It doesn't 3-shot it. And Brave Bird OHKOs the Sneasler. So I also only need the Corviknight for this Sneasler. It would be nice to have it around for the Mach, but I really only need it for the Sneasler anyways. So I was okay with trading 1-for-1 if I needed to do that, in case he like SDs and then can 2-shot me with the close combat. I was okay with that trade. So, however, we see the Sneasler Swords Dance here. Go for a Rock Slide. I get crit and flinched. And now this puts me in a really bad spot because even if I had been flinched the first time, I would have been able to live 2 more Rock Slides and still had 2 more shots to get off a Brave Bird, which would put this at 100%, which would do like 102 to 105 or something like that as the calc. But with the crit, I can only live 1 more, which means I need to not get flinched on this next Rock Slide. And what do you know? I do end up getting flinched. So now, because of the crit flinch into the flinch, my Corviknight is pretty much dead. It can't live another one. However, I'm just going to stay in and bank off a miss maybe. I mean, crit flinch into flinch. Hopefully, Rock Slide will miss. But it doesn't. And my Corviknight goes down. So now the issue is that I don't really have anything that outspeeds the Sneasler, right? So I go into my Lando because it will eat every hit, and hopefully we'll get off a Earth Power or a Psychic to take down this Sneasler. And then a big threat will be gone, and even though I'll lose a lot of health on Lando, at this point I don't really have any other play, so I just kind of have to go for this. However, Sneasler goes for Rock Slide and flinches me again. So now I can't sack the Lando. I need Lando to just win this game. I mean, it's my main win condition now that like this Sneasler is putting me in a really bad spot. So I have to switch out. I decide my most expendable member is the Drifblim. It does survive, but it goes on to the second Rock Slide. Given that, maybe I should have gone to Drifblim initially, but I mean, I didn't expect crit flinch into another flinch. So yeah, maybe that was a slight misplay on my part, but I really wanted to be in a good position. And honestly, my Drifblim doesn't do enough damage to this Sneasler anyways. I didn't want to activate whatever item it might have, like Unburden or whatever, and then make it like impossible for me to win. Especially if it like SDs up on my attack. Then I'm in a really, really bad spot. But now I go into my Chardy Berry Moltres to try and tank an attack and maybe hit it in some way. With the Chardy Berry, I do survive, and I get off a Memento, so that the Sneasler is no longer +2, which means my Lando can actually live now. He goes for the SD because he end up being Sash, which is really unfortunate because now he's +2 and I don't have a way to outspeed it. So now I can't give up my Lando because Lando is definitely a win condition here. Gardecuno unfortunately can't break through the Mach, so I really need to save that mon, and I thought Dragonite looked really, really good here, even though I was down 2-6. I need Dragonite E-Speed to take this out, and then I also needed Dragonite Earthquake to just try and reverse sweep potentially. So I decided to sack Articuno here. I get reversaled, which is really cool, but I also get Poison Touch, which means now my Articuno is definitely dead. I mean, the Poison Touch didn't matter that much. It was just more salt in the wound, I guess, for this game. But now Dragonite comes out. I finally get rid of this Sneasler. Well, first I Dragon Dance. Not really to play around upper hand. I did not expect the upper hand at all. But now I look really, really cool. But the point of Dragon Dancing here was that I would live any one attack. And I wanted to Dragon Dance so I'd be in a good spot to be able to 2-shot everything on the team or 1-shot it and then potentially be able to reverse sweep. Because that's really my win condition right now, is being able to reverse sweep. So I get off the Dragon Dance. Sneasler does switch out. I get up a second Dragon Dance because I need a lot of Dragon Dances. And then here I get hazed by the Weezing. And I forgot this mon got haze. to be completely honest, I forgot I got haze. And I really should have just hit this mon. Because if I hit it at +2, I did like probably like 40, 50%. And then from there, I could, try to outplay the haze with Dragon Dances and try to go for some damage that way. But unfortunately, I get greedy, go for another Dragon Dance, get hazed. I switch out into Lando so I can Psychic this Weezing, but obviously he doesn't let that happen. He goes into the Muck, and now I realize that Earth Power does 50%, which is not enough. So I go into Dragonite again. Grafaiai comes out. I go for the E-Speed trying to pop the balloon. It doesn't work, so Dragonite takes some Rocky Helmet chip from the Weezing. Now I get Flamethrower. If I got burned there, I would have been really, really sad, but thankfully I didn't, and I got some justice a little bit here with a crit on Weezing. I go for another DD, trying to outplay the haze. We catch it on the Pain Split. I take a little more Rocky Helmet chip. Will-O-Wisp misses, and I somehow 1v1 a Weezing with the Dragonite. But from here, at this point, Dragonite is way too chipped, and unfortunately, I can't reverse sweep because at +1, I don't do enough damage. And this is kind of why I needed +2 earlier. But I was really, really close to potentially reverse sweeping. If this extreme speed actually killed this Grafaiai, I probably had the reverse sweep because all of these mons died to Earthquake, and then this dies to E-Speed. So I would have to play a little bit around the upper hand, but like potentially if I had Dragon Danced up at some point here, predicting a Pain Split or something like that, or the Will-O-Wisp, and gotten to +2, I maybe honestly could have even brought this back. It would have been really tough. I don't know the exact upper hand calc. If it does 13% of Dragonite, I am not invested really at all. So maybe it does. I mean, this is a Sneasler. At the very least, I mean, it probably upper hand probably goes into a Poison Touch, considering how this game went, and takes out my Dragonite anyways. So that would be my assumption as to what would happen if I had somehow gotten +2, but that didn't happen. And the Grafaiai basically just cleans up. Double Terra Blast takes me out, takes out my Dragonite, and then it also just outspeeds my Lando. So, yeah, with that, it is a 5-0 loss to Mountain Man. And so that puts me at 4th seed, which means something for the playoff bracket. But overall, it was a really unfortunate game, but it didn't really matter since both of us are already clinched playoffs. So honestly, I'm okay with getting all of my bad luck out of the way now. And hopefully I won't be plagued by similar luck during the playoff matches. But yeah, GG to Mountain Man. Bit of an unfortunate anticlimactic game to end the season on, but a good game nonetheless. And then the next game that we have is going to be our Ghost versus Grass game. This is Curb playing Cole. And I do, in fact, have pace for this team. So we have a Choice Scarf Banette, Terra Poison, Gunk Shot, Shadow Sneak, Sucker Punch, and Pounce. Very cool. I don't remember what Pounce does, but it is a bug type move, so makes sense to be on this Banette set. It's going to be really fun to see this Banette put in work. We have a X-Scissor, Recover, Metal Burst, and Thunder Wave Sableye. That looks really good here. Being able to Thunder Wave really fast stuff like Zarude, and the Iron Leaves, if it's like Booster, will be really nice. X-Scissor is also just a funny tech to see on a Sableye. We have a Focus Sash Ceruledge with Weak Armor, Bitter Blade X-Scissor, Shadow Sneak, and Swords Dance. Pretty standard Ceruledge set. Definitely puts in work here. Yeah, I think potentially bringing Poltergeist for the Sinister could have been a little bit better than X-Scissor. Because, I mean, X-Scissor doesn't really hit anything Bitter Blade doesn't hit. And Bitter Blade is probably honestly stronger into a lot of things. But Poltergeist really helps you with the Sinistra, since Sinistra is heat proof and takes neutral damage from Bitter Blade. And can definitely revenge you with the Shadow Ball. But good set nonetheless. We have a Choice Specs, Gengar, Sludge Wave, Psychic, Shadow Ball, Encore. Encore on a Choice Specs set is really funny. But seems like a pretty good last-ditch effort, or potentially trying to lock in something like Sinistra or into Calm Mind, or Vileplume into Strength Sap or something like that. So that could be cool. And then we have a Focus Sash Zoroark, Nasty Plot Psychic, Flamethrower, Sludge Bomb. Pretty standard set. And then we have a Dragapult with Choice Scarf. Special this week, Draco Meteor, Fire Blast, Shadow Ball. So, yeah, I mean, Ceruledge looks really good. Fire Blast, Dragapult looks really good. I mean, Scarf means that it outspeeds everything on the team. And then the Zoroark is definitely going to put in work, be very, very concerning for Curb to play around. But take a look at Curb's squad real quick. We have a Leftovers, Substitute, Lasty Plot, Rotom Mo. We have a Rocky Helmet, Vileplume, Sludge Bomb, Strength Sap, Toxic, and Leech Seed. We have a non-heat-proof Sinistra. I'm assuming that's just probably a misclick, like just forgetting to change the ability, because Hospitality doesn't do anything in singles. But we see a Calm Mind, Shadow Ball, Nightshade, and Reflect set, which is cool. Kasib Berry, I believe that's the Ghost Resist Berry, if I had to guess. Yeah. Ghost Resist Berry. Okay. We have Virizion, which is the Iron Leaves. Expert Belt with Psyblade, Close Combat, Break, and Night Slash. And then we have a Life Orb Zarude, Bulk Up with 3 attacks. And a Scrappy Decidueye with knockoff Tailwind, Haze, and Triple Arrows. Tailwind is really cool. It'll help a lot of things outspeed some of this really fast offense that Cole is bringing. But yeah, with that, we can get into the match. So we see a lead Banette, Scarf Banette into the Rotom. Banette does outspeed. We see immediate Terra Poison into a Gunk Shot into an Oko. So Banette putting in work off lead. We see a switch into Dragapult on the Psyblade from the Iron Leaves. Does a solid amount, but Dragapult just U-turns out. So a smart switch on Curb's part. We see Sableye setting up with the Nasty Plot. We get knocked off here, but it is in fact the Zoroark, and not the Sableye. So Oko's back with Flamethrower. Cole predicts the Terra Poison, goes for a Psychic. Flamethrower on the Sinistra. I wonder... Zoroark a Shadow Ball, right? Oh, Zoroark a Sludge Bomb. Okay, so then Flamethrower is probably the strongest move. Yeah, I mean, I think there could be an argument for going for Sludge Bomb there in case the Sinistra was heat proof in order to get just to get off poison damage. But also, I mean, the Sinistra wasn't heat proof, so going for Flamethrower did kill. So can't really say anything about that. But we see Flamethrower come off, and yeah, I think this is just a sweep from Cole. Yeah, Zoroark just sweeps. So 6-0 to end off the season from Cole. Very well played and very good sets, and then very well played with for Curb as well. It's always really tough to play against a Zoroark because you don't know what mon is what, and definitely the play with the Decidueye against the Sableye makes a lot of sense because Decidueye does normally beat Sableye. Since Scrappy, it hits it super effectively with triple arrows, so that play makes a lot of sense. I don't think that there was much that Curb could have really done, besides maybe heat proof on the Sinistra so that he could have lived and then potentially kept on playing out the game. But yeah, very tough matchup for Curb. But yeah, with that, that's the last game for both of these teams for the regular season. So thank you guys both for participating this season, and we hope to see you guys back next season. But with that, we're going to move on to Game 4. So we have Mono Fairy, Exilus versus Gradient's Mono Ground this week. And we see some interesting choices. Excadrill makes a lot of sense, so Sand Offense is coming. I'm assuming Gliscor is going to be the main Iron Valiant check. Ursaluna just looks really good here. And then Torterra is coming off the bench. I think this might be the first time Torterra came. So it's going to be very fun to see what set Gray decides to bring with that. On Exilus' side, it's interesting to see a Tinkaton into a Mono Ground team. But, I mean, looking at the squad, there doesn't look like there's any Excadrill really counterplay. Probably just Booster Iron Valiant if I had to guess. Should outspeed Excadrill in the sand, depending on how fast Excadrill is. Yeah, it could potentially outspeed. Maybe like a Focus Sash Hatterene could come to counteract the Excadrill, or Disguise on Mimikyu could be really good, as well as Earth Power on Enam to revenge it, potentially, if it's out of sand, sand turns. But, yeah, I mean, I think with that we can kind of get into the match and just see how it plays out. So we see a Tinkaton lead into the Hippowdon. So immediate sand comes up. Tinkaton goes for the fake out. Flinches, no Rocky Helmet on the Hippo. We see Stealth Rocks come up into an Earthquake, and Tinkaton just drops. So that's really unfortunate because Tinkaton was probably the only Iron Head switch in on this team. And now without Tinkaton, it's really tough to switch into that Excadrill. But we see an Amoris come out. We see a Grass Knot. Okay, fair enough. Excadrill does tank that though. Now Excadrill goes for a free Iron Head. Hatterene gets sacked here. Makes sense. It's much slower than everything on the team. I don't think it really beats anything. So sack makes sense. We see Iron Head come out from the Excadrill. We see Oko on the Weezing. Wow, this is a really strong Excadrill. We see Iron Valiant Endure. Oh, but this is really unfortunate because if you Endure while you're in Sandstorm, if it brings you down to the 1%, the Sandstorm will just take you out. So I think here, potentially going to Mimikyu, you would have busted your Disguise on the first Iron Head, could have potentially got off like Wood Hammer Chip. I'm assuming you bring Wood Hammer into Monoground. Wood Hammer Chip might have done like 40-45%. And then you could kind of go for like a Shadow Sneak after that or something. But the main point of that would be to stall out all the sand turns. And then from there, you can go into Iron Valiant and try to pull off the Endure strategy from there. But we do see Endure Iron Head come out. Oh, it's Weakness Policy. Okay, that's fun. Okay. But unfortunately, the Sandstorm does take out the Iron Valiant. And we see now the Mimikyu comes out, goes for the Iron Head. Oh, and it gets flinched. Okay, that's really unfortunate. Yeah, it looks like I would assume Wood Hammer into Shadow Sneak probably killed, considering that Shadow Sneak damage did 24%. But yeah, unfortunately, Mimikyu does go down. And then from here, Enamoris just also gets taken out. We do see the Q-Charm come out at the end. So maybe going Enamoris first and trying to play for the Attract could have been a potential play. But also, Enamoris just looks really, really good here in general offensively. So it's completely understandable to not play for such a like unlikely out. But we have another 6-0 for this week from Gray into Exilus. And both of these teams were definitely in playoff contention potentially. So this match definitely had a pretty large impact on the standings for this week. But we'll look at that at the end. For now, GG to both of them. Really good brings on both sides. And we're going to move on to the fifth match. So the fifth match, we have Shattered with Mono Dark and Blue with Mono Ice. We see, I believe, Shattered is in playoff contention depending on the outcome of this match. And Meow is also right now number 1 in KD. And with 2 more kills in this game, if it gets 2 more kills, it will in fact be kill leader for the regular season for the first season of GLCC. So yeah, I mean, not too much to talk about. I mean, Shatter's team is really, really weak to ice in general. I mean, 5 out of these mons are weak to ice. So yeah, I mean, it's a bit tough. Very, very tough matchup for Shattered, especially considering this is a match that could potentially help him get into playoffs. But we'll just play it out and see how it goes. We see Meow lead on the Ninetales. Ninetales switches out into Weavile. We see a Power Gem come out. It does Oko the Weavile. So probably expects Meow because Meow is really, really weak. Ninetales comes out, also gets sacked to the Power Gem. And then Avalugg comes out here. Terra Fightings, and this Avalugg kind of just 6-0s the team. But we see a Body Press come out. Oko the Meowscarada. Master Shift comes out. The Fire Master Shift tech with Endure. It's probably Custap Endeavor. Yep, Custap. Destiny Bond. Okay, very cool. But blue does go for the recover. Endeavor comes out now, brings it down to 1%. Avla goes for the Iron Defense. It looks like the Mastiff is not Quick Attack. If it was Quick Attack, it could have Quick Attack there and taken out the Avlug, which would have been a huge threat down on this team. But we see Avlug able to recover back. Body Press Oko's a Murkrow, which is kind of crazy. Iron Jugulis goes for the workup. Body Press comes out, takes it out. Mastiff comes out, gets the Intimidate, but it doesn't really matter because Avlug is just going for Body Presses. Endeavors the Avlug down to 1, but Mandibuzz comes out, switching to Bundler because the Avlug cannot Oko the Mandibuzz. Yachi does allow Mandibuzz to live, get off some Brave Bird chip, but the Ice Beam will just take out the Mandibuzz, and from here, Bundler should just win. Tinglu probably takes 1, but doesn't really do too much back. Or Lapras just comes out and Paris traps the Tinglu since it's the last Mon on the field. But yeah, we see a Paris Sun come out. Yep. We see Protect probably. Yeah, Protect comes out. And then we see probably a switch into Avlug if Blue's trying to preserve differential. Or double Protect, that also works since the Lapras does live. And Lapras probably also lives the next Earthquake, but yeah, just to be safe, we see a switch out into Baxcalibur. And Blue does win this game in a nice 4-0 victory. However, Meow did get 2 kills, which means that it is officially the first regular season kill leader in GLCC history. So congrats, Shattered, and help making that Meow put in work this whole season. But with this loss, unfortunately, Shattered is out of playoff contentions, but it was really fun having him in this season, and hopefully he will come back next season and bring some more heat. But with that, GG to both of them, and we're going to move on to Game 6. So Game 6, we have Lunar Echo versus Arc, and both of these players are currently in playoff contention, which means that the winner of this game, if Arc wins by 2-0, it will be actually a tiebreak between these two teams for who gets into playoffs, who gets the 8th spot in playoffs. And they will end up going by strength of schedule to see who will end up making it into playoffs. And otherwise, if Lunar Echo wins, he does guarantee playoffs. And if Arc wins 3-0 or more than that, he also guarantees playoffs. So this is a very, very big game. Super important for both of these players in order to make playoffs. So just looking at the matchup, I believe I have pace for this. I do, in fact, have pace for this. Okay, sweet. So we have a Focus Sash Rabombi with Moonblast, Energy Ball, Agility, and Sunspore. Interesting to see Agility instead of Quiver Dance. Maybe it's for Rain Sweeping, I guess. I do think Quiver Dance is probably just better. But still interesting to see Agility being run on a Rabombi instead of Quiver Dance. But we see a Throat Spray Yanmega, which looks really good here. Giga Drain, Psychic Noise, Air Slash. So Giga Drain, Psychic Noise lets it beat Toxapex, and the Throat Spray gets activated by Psychic Noise. So that's pretty heat. We have a Heavy Duty Boots Araquanid, just to tank hits. It is Max Fizz Def, Giga Drain, Sticky. I didn't know this mod got Giga Drain. That's pretty crazy. Sticky Whip, Mirror Coat, and Reflect. So that looks really good as a Walking Wake counter. We have Low Kicks, Heavy Duty Boots, Double Stab, or not Double Stab actually. We have Knockoff Sucker Punch Facade, which is really cool, potentially for Toxapex in case it Skull Burns. And then we have Trailblaze as the last to boost speed. And then we have an Expert Belt Vikavolt. Thunder is pretty cool. Against Rain does make sense though. Energy Ball, Volt Switch, and an Agility set in order to outspeed stuff. So Vikavolt obviously looks really, really good here, especially since Draco doesn't really have too many great answers to it on the team that was brought. It's just going to be Walking Wake. And yeah, that's it. We have a Choice Scarf Slitherwing last with Wild Charge, Will-O-Wisp, Close Combat, and U-Turn. Also looks like a really good Scarfer. I don't think it outspeeds Quack after Aqua Step, but still a very strong mon nonetheless. And Wild Charge definitely will put in some serious work in this game. Looking at Lunar's team, we have a Damp Rock Pelipper. It is offensive-ish. Weather Ball, Hurricane, Roost, and U-Turn. And then it is Max Fizdef this week. We have a Basculin with Choice Scarf, Rockhead, Head Smash, Wave Crash, Psychic Fangs, and Flip Turn. It is Terra Rocked, so the Head Smashes are going to hit really, really hard. We are going to see a Quagsire that is Liquidation, Rock Slide, Recover, and Stealth Rock. So it's going to be really important to get up Stealth Rock to break sashes and do a lot of damage to a lot of Ark's team. We have a Regenerator, Black Sludge, Toxapex, Liquidation, Toxic, Haze, Recover, pretty standard set. Booster Energy, Walking Wake. Looking at the EVs, I think it's speed boosting. Yeah, I think it's speed boosting, but we'll see in the game. It's Scald, Flamethrower, Hurricane, and Protect. Makes sense. Then we have Quackable with Aqua Jet, Brave Bird, Roost, and Rapid Spin, Moxie, Heavy Duty Boots set. So it doesn't get affected by the sticky webs. I am interested in the fact that there's no defensive Slitherwing to counterplay against the Terra Rock Basculegion, but also, or the Basculin. But also, I don't know if defensive Slitherwing even took an attack from Terra Rock Basculin, but it probably also helped with the Quack. So I'll be interested to see how the Choice Scarf set does over the defensive set that I thought would come. But otherwise, definitely both teams look very scary. And yeah, we'll get into it. So we see Choice Scarf Slitherwing lead into the Choice Scarf Basculin. We see a switch out since the Basculin doesn't OHKO and the Slitherwing does. We see Quagsire come out. You turn on the Quagsire, getting into Rabombi for free. Energy Ball comes out. Toxapex does eat that. We don't see a Sticky Web come up. We see Toxic into the Araquanid. I wonder if an Infestation trapping set for Araquanid would have been really cool here to trap the Toxapex and Quagsire. But we do see a Sticky Web come out. Oh wait, Rabombi doesn't have Sticky Web, right? Yeah, Rabombi doesn't have Sticky Web. That's why we don't see a Sticky Web come out. Okay. Yeah, so we see a Giga Drain come out. The Quackable does go for the Brave Bird. Does a lot of damage here. Giga Drain comes out, does put in some work against this Quackable, but unfortunately the Araquanid does go down. We see Sucker Punch come out, takes out the Quackable because Low Kicks is insane. We see another Sucker Punch come out, crit, and almost take out the Basculin. But Basculin does revenge with the Head Smash, and then Slitherwing comes out, Scarf Slitherwing. Head Smash misses, which is really unfortunate for Lunar, and U-Turn will take out the Basculin. Now Vikavolt is in a really good position. I'm surprised to see the Toxapex come out here instead of a Walking Wake. And I'm even more surprised to see a Liquidation, since that would have done maybe like 13-14% to the Vikavolt. But I think really Toxic would have been probably a little better, just so you could try and 1v1 the Vikavolt with Wake, or at least get some residual damage off on it, so that then you can take it out with Flamethrower later. But I see Liquidation come out onto the Yanmega. Yanmega probably goes for Psychic Noise here to activate Throat Spray. Yep. We see Heal Block and 40%, which is pretty solid. That means that the Energy Ball probably takes out, or Air Slash comes out, yeah, takes out the Pelipper. Now I'm assuming Walking Wake will come out, yep. It is Booster Speed, yep. We see Air Slash come out, doesn't take out the Walking Wake from full. Yeah, I mean, Air Slash was the strongest move there, so that makes sense. Walking Wake does take out the Mega. But now Rabombi comes out, goes for Moonblast, doesn't do much damage to the Toxapex at all. Misses Stun Spore, which is really unfortunate, as Rabombi gets Toxic. And I mean, this is kind of the situation in which potentially having Quiver Dance over Agility would have been nice, just so you can try and Quiver Dance up. But I mean, you probably don't beat the Toxapex anyways, and Toxapex has Haze, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, potentially against a non-Haze Toxapex, it could have been pretty good. But in this case, it doesn't really matter. We see a Toxic come out. Now the hard Vikavolt, which makes sense. Vikavolt eats the Liquidation. I mean, it actually did solid damage, so never mind. We see Quagsire come out here on the Thunder. Now Energy Ball will just come out. I'm assuming you might go back Toxapex or just sack the Quags out of here, which also makes sense. Walking Awake comes out, goes for Flamethrower, does revenge the Vikavolt. I think potentially here, against the Walking Wake, I think you sack either Rabombi or Slitherwing. Because you really want to save the Vikavolt because that's the way you beat Toxapex. Otherwise, you're really not in a great spot against Toxapex. I think probably you sack Rabombi because even though Rabombi does a little bit better into the Walking Awake, Slitherwing still OHKOs it. And I don't know if U-turn will kill from this range, but if it does, considering how offensive the Slitherwing is, it might. And having Rabombi, I mean, this is somewhat of a bulky wake though, so maybe not. But it could be nice to sack off Rabombi here, go into Slitherwing. Lunar is forced to save the. It basically is a 50-50, right? Because Lunar is forced to save the Walking Wake here. And if Lunar stays in, goes for the Flamethrower. Arc's play is always to U-turn. Arc's play is always to U-turn because Hard Toxapex is a very obvious play on Lunar's part. And then if Arc manages to U-turn on Toxapex, he can go into Vikavolt and just click Thunderbolt twice. Or Thunder twice or Energy Ball twice, depending on whichever one guarantees the kill on both of them. And by doing that, or he can even, I think the Vikavolt has Volt Switch, right? Let's double check. It does have Volt Switch. So you can Volt Switch out into the Slitherwing that is Choice Scarfed. And then that way, even if that covers both the double into Walking Awake, because then you can just Wild Charge. Or it also covers Toxapex staying in, going for a Liquidation / a Toxic, because then you can still Wild Charge, and that should pretty much seal up the game. That'll pretty much seal up the game from there. So Arc's play is always to sack Rabombi, go into Vikavolt, go into Slitherwing, and U-turn on this play. Now, the other play that Lunar can make if that happens is staying in on the U-turn, at which point, if the U-turn doesn't kill the Walking Wake, Vikavolt does have to get sacked there to the Flamethrower, and then the Toxapex probably doesn't get beaten. Wild Charge probably kills at that point, but at that point, then Lunar kind of wins the game. But the point of that is really that could potentially allow Arc to win the game 2-0. And if Arc wins the game 2-0, then he has a chance of getting into playoffs. Is really the point of this entire convoluted line of thinking here. But see if Flamethrower come out. Rabombi comes out now. Toxapex comes out. We see Moonblast into the Toxapex. We see double into Walking Wake on the Energy Ball. So Arc does catch that and goes back into the Toxapex here. Gets the Spit F drop, which is really nice. And yeah, I think this Rabombi is just going to keep clicking Energy Ball until it dies. Liquidation does allow the Rabombi to go down. Wild Charge comes out, does 59%. Okay, that's pretty solid damage on the Toxapex. So maybe instead of U-turning out, Arc should have just sacked Rabombi, gone for the Wild Charge from the Slitherwing. Gone into Slitherwing, gone for Wild Charge, because then that would cover the Toxapex switching it, and that would kill the Wake. So then that would be a guaranteed 2-0 victory there. So I think that was probably the correct play there, or even just going going Slitherwing first instead of the Rabombi first. After Vikavolt was sacked, I think also would have worked to win the game 2-0. But we do see Wild Charge come out, take out the Walking Wake, and the Slitherwing does clutch up at the end. So, Choice Scarf Slitherwing was actually a really good bring here. So props to Arc, and I think Central ended up helping build this team. So props to both of them for this bring. Congrats to Arc on getting this win here. Unfortunately, it was a 1-0 victory, so it doesn't qualify Arc for playoffs, and Lunar does stay in the playoffs bracket. But it was still a really well played game by Arc, and it was, he ended up winning when he kind of needed to. And overall this season, Arc has really shown that Bug is definitely a valuable type, and you can definitely play it really well and get wins with it. So very cool stuff. But GG to both of them. It was a really close game, a 1-0. So yeah, very well played to both sides. With that, we're going to go into our final game for the regular season, for the first season ever of GLCC. So we have Dracagon, Mono Fire, versus Kai, Mono Fighting. And we have some interesting brings on both sides. Rapid Strike Urshifu is going to look really, really good here. Obviously on Kai's side, but it does have to be really careful of the Volcanion as well as Sun, weakening the attacks. Skeldridge is going to be really, really good to burn a lot of these mons, although you do have to be careful about Guts Conk. Iron Moth looks like a really good win condition at the end game, potentially like a booster speed Dazzling Gleam set. Cinderace obviously also looks really strong with high jump kick and Powerball being able to hit a lot of these mons pretty heftily. And then we do see the Charizard bring the Terra Captain Charizard to abuse the Sun from Torkoal. So we can take a look at the sets really quickly. We have a Heavy Duty Boots, Great Tusk, Earthquake, Rocks, Knockoff, and Rapid Spin. Pretty standard set. We have a Bulk Up, Knockoff, Drain Punch, Gunk Shot, Adamant, Okidogi. Very bulky, max HP, max attack. We have Flame Orb, Guts, Conk, Drain Punch, Mach Punch, High Horsepower, and Knockoff. That looks really good here, actually. High Horsepower hits almost everything, especially the Skeldridge, so that could be really nice. We have a Assault Vest, Iron Hands, Ice Punch, Drain Punch, Earthquake, Thunder Punch. Pretty standard elemental punches plus Earthquake. We have a Choice Scarf or Shifu, and then a Akka Berry Heracross with Close Combat, Megahorn, Stone Edge, Earthquake. I think honestly going Choice Scarf on Heracross could have been really nice, just to try and go for an endgame Heracross sweep, but also a cool set. And then we have a Jack Pack Torkoal with Overheat, and then we have Choice Scarf, Terra Grass Charizard with Terra Blast, which is fun. Probably for Great Tusk, I guess. Then we have Iron Moth with Choice Scarf. So Iron Moth is also a Choice Scarf set with Psychic, Dazzling Gleam, Flamethrower, and Toxic Spikes, which is interesting. Okidogi does absorb the Toxic Spikes, though, so probably not going to get clicked. But it is a cool last option on this mod. Interesting to see Flamethrower over Fiery Dance as well. But we see Volcanion with Heavy Duty Boots, Flamethrower, Sludge Wave, Steam Eruption, Will-O-Wisp. And then we have another Boots, Skeldridge, Unaware, Alluring Voice, Slack Off, Torch, Song, and Will-O-Wisp. And then finally we have a no item Acrobatics Cinderace, which is really cool. SD, Powerball, and Zen Headbutt. So maybe we'll see a Cinderace sweep in this last match here. But yeah, with that, let's get into it. So we see Charizard lead, immediate Terra Grass into Hurricane, and that just OHKOs the Great Tusk. Also something funny, I think it's interesting to bring Hurricane on a Sun team on a Charizard, because Hurricane does end up with 50% accuracy in the Sun. So just pretty funny there, pretty funny bring there for sure. But we see a Scarf Iron Moth take a bunch from this Gunk Shot, but it does go back with the Psychic, which is pretty free into this team actually. There's no Psychic switch-ins. So Torkoal comes out on the Heracross, eats the Earthquake for breakfast, probably gets up Rocks here, if I had to guess. Or Overheats, yeah, that makes sense too. I don't think the Stone Edge was really the play there, just because, I mean, I'm assuming it's just for the crit chance, I guess, but Earthquake and Stone Edge are the same power. So I think just going for the Earthquake here to get guaranteed damage made a little bit more sense, but I guess it was probably covering Charizard switching, I guess. So fair enough. We see Torkoal go for the Overheat. Akka Berry does proc, so the Heracross does live. And then we see the Eject Pack into the Charizard. So now Charizard has 4 turns to abuse the Sun. We see Flamethrower come out, take out the Heracross. Solar Power is chipping down the Charizard. Choice Scarf Urshifu comes out here. U-turn on the Volcanion, so very good play by Kai. We see Thunder Punch probably come out from the Iron Hands. Yep. Into Earthquake. I think it has Earthquake. We see Will-O-Wisp come out. See Earthquake. I think, honestly, switching out into Conch here because the Will-O-Wisp is pretty telegraphed. Could have been a little bit better, but I mean, also Conch doesn't really beat Skeletorge anyways. I think, yeah, I mean, like, at this point, it's really tough to beat Skeletorge in general for Kai's team. But especially not having Scrafty is really rough into the Skeletorge. But we see Conch come out now. Knockoff does 64%. We see Slakoff come off from the Dirge. And Conch goes for high horsepower. So that does actually beat the Dirge 1v1. But unfortunately, the burn has put Conch into range of a Learned Voice. I think probably speed creeping Conch. Speed creeping the Skeletorge with Conch could have been really nice there. So that you could outspeed it and then take it out. Which would have been really good for some of your other mons like Iron Hands and stuff. But see Scarf Urshifu comes out. Torkoal sets up the Sun so that Surging Strikes doesn't really do any kind of damage to it. And then now we're probably going to see a pivot into... Oh, we see a pivot into Charizard. I feel like Surging Strikes... Oh, Surging Strikes does nothing. Okay. I apologize, Charizard. I was not familiar with your game. But we see Solar Power come out. More chip. Iron Hands comes out into the Terra Blast. Yeah, I mean, Iron Hands doesn't take anything because it's Assault Vest. But, I mean, slowly chipping it down. Slowly but surely. Drain Punch gets a little bit of health back, but... Yeah, at this point, Cinderace comes in. Goes for Zen Headbutt. Takes out the Iron Hands, and now Scarf Urshifu. I mean, it might honestly kill the Cinderace. Yeah, it's close. It does a solid amount of damage, but unfortunately not quite. But it does live the Zen Headbutt, so it does get off another one. So, but Volcanion here just wins because it is choice locked into Surging Strikes. So, Dracogon does pull off the 5-0 victory here. And unfortunately, Kai doesn't lose this battle. But very good game to both of them. Cool sets, cool brings on both sides. The Akaberry Heracross was really cool, I will say. But overall, this was a great final week for our regular season. And yeah, we're excited to get into playoffs and see how those games turn out. But really quick, we're going to look at the standings. So after 7 weeks, we have Sir Blue in first seed with his Mono Ice team, 6-1 with a crazy differential of 23. Mountain Man is second with Poison, with also a 6-1 record. And then Lost Lotto is 6-1 as well with Mono Psychic at third seed. And then from there, I am fourth seed with 5-2, Mono Flying. Dracogon is fifth seed with Mono Fire, going 4-3. And then Central is sixth seed with Mono Dragon. Gradients made it to seed 7 with Mono Ground. And then finally, Lunar Echo is the final member of our playoff race with the 8th seed at 3-4 record. But yeah, playing Mono Water. But for our playoff matches, next week we're going to have our Ice go against Water. I am playing against Fire. Mountain Man is playing against Ground, so Ground versus Poison. And then we have Psychic and Dragon, so the rematch of Lost Lotto and Central for next week. So make sure you stay tuned for playoffs to see who will end up winning it all in the first season of the Gym Leader Challenge Circuit. But also stay on the lookout. Applications for Season 2 will be coming out very soon, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Join the Discord server if you haven't already. And yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next week for playoffs.